one thing I love about Pocket Gamer, meeting new faces, but also catching up with old ones who've been on the show. Yes, on the Pocket Gamer podcast, you can listen in. You can hear Teemu from Metaplay. And Teemu, great to be here in your throne room here. The whole Renaissance feeling going on. Love the chairs. Checking out the magazine that we will be talking about a bit. I mean, first of all, to have a piece of paper, something physical, and not just that, right? You actually, not only did you write part of it, but let's see, what's the likeness here? I would say something. I'm thinking Game of Thrones meets Robin Hood here, but yes, Renaissance, very cool.
Yeah.
It's got a touch.
And that picture actually is from Pocket Gamer GDC edition.
Oh wow! Okay.
So
you're resourceful. You reuse everything.
Yeah.
So tell me about it. Tell me about Metaplay. Tell me about the very cool AI generated, although it looks like every Rembrandt, that we've ever had to study, that I studied in college because I did do this. I did liberal arts, so I got to have fun geeking out on art. Now I'm going to talk about geeking out on games. Metaplay. You were one of our best shows actually on Pocket Gamer because you had so much to share.
Thank you.
What's going on over there these days?
Right. So we're a backend vendor working with a bunch of high-end game developers working on new things, emphasis on new things. So what we're here for with the whole game development renaissance is we're talking about what is the next new thing that people are actually excited about, right? Like it's been this doom and gloom scenario for basically the last 2 years. For good reasons, but now, statistically speaking, we interviewed 140 or so developers and asked what makes them excited about the next year, like where's the possibility? And obviously we want to be there to help, but you can obviously get this whole ebook from our site. If you want the print copy, better visit our booth, be quick. But for example, people are seeing big opportunity, not just necessarily with AI, but new tools and technologies enabling games that they could not do before, that maybe now has an audience, right? That wasn't available 2 years ago, or finding some other way to stand out while still feeling creative and excited about what they do.
That's what I'm hearing as well, because yes, I've had enough doom and gloom. I'm way too optimistic for this stuff, and I've been hearing it ever since the COVID bump disappeared, like it was a bad thing that COVID stopped, right? But anyway, you talk about it, and you think about new things, and in many cases, those new things are going for the niche, going very much for the niche, and not thinking so much about the mainstream popularity and success as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And actually, we have some of our customers' game up on the pedestals here, which I think is just a lovely example of that. For example, one big trend is cross-play or multi-platform gameplay, where you can have that niche audience, but when you combine multiple platforms together, maybe suddenly it's a big enough audience that you're able to reach it and like bring it over and like make a good showing out of it. We have another one, Venue, which is looking fantastic. That's more for a female audience. So then the aesthetic is, I want to say, beautiful, and it just attracts or is like marketable to something other than the traditional mainstream. And we even have Bitmagic that does completely AI generated worlds. So then now we're even talking about something where nobody knows what that is gonna be like, but now they're able to explore you writing a prompt and the AI generating a full-on playable 3D world with your own rules. So is that more like a Roblox sandboxy experience, or what is it? We don't know, we're exploring it. And those are, they are niches until they suddenly aren't, right? But you start from there. Start with a specific audience in mind, with a very specific hypothesis for your business, and then let's see how much we can scale it. And that's really exciting.
Speaking of scale, what are you doing? Because, of course, you're about the back end and freeing them up to build the games. That's really at the core of Metaplay. But how have you evolved in the last year since we spoke, Teemu?
That's a good one. So much has happened.
I've seen a lot, I've heard a lot, but let's hear it from you.
Right, fair enough. So obviously we've signed up more customers than we have throughout the last 4 years of our company's existence. So as in people are finding Metaplay, we are now seeing whole portfolios of investment companies starting to sort of recommend us for the new startup. So that's exciting. As in, that's a sign of trust that we don't take lightly, that we're starting to work with sort of top tier startups. That's exciting from a business point of view. What's maybe happening on the product side, which I'm more passionate about personally, is that we are, for example, talking a lot with these top-end developers like Supercell and Rovira and so on to understand what does it look like when you have a team of 150 developers and now you're managing this content roadmap for your billion-dollar game. What tools do you need then? And that turns out they're way more visual. So for example, our latest release as of 2 weeks ago on our SDK, we added this visual timeline where you can start to see as a calendar view everything you have going on in the past of your game currently, what's happening next week or 2 months down the line. So your whole team can maybe open that up on a big TV and start to sort of more visually understand what kind of scheduling are we gonna, what kind of experience is this game gonna be. It was always there, but now if you can make it understandable, then you're able to scale your game team in complexity when previously you would kind of halt. So there's many type of scaling happening, and those are the ones that I find most interesting. What we're going to do next, though, I'm not going to promise anything because we're talking about future, but what we may or may not be launching soon is that we'll be opening this up even more. So we'll have a complete self-service system where we'll host your servers for you. And we're already managing hundreds of game servers. We're taking that up to tens of thousands of game servers and dropping the price so that we can just take care of that side of boring scaling on game dev's behalf. But again, business products, it's doing all these things in parallel.
I was excited about what you said for the big teams because I've spoken with publishers, and of course IP is so important, but IP to manage, that is a huge challenge, especially if it's a big IP. I won't name it, but the woman I was speaking with, she was like, yes, we had to be in line. They had a movie coming out, so you get the idea of where I'm going here. Oh, yeah. And that needs to be planned in a certain way. And then also all the content, all the fresh content, and all the live ops around it.
All right, absolutely. And I mentioned Venue on one of those games it's a sort of home decoration style game, which means you have absolutely tens of thousands of unique assets of homes and carpets and chairs and to run your decoration system. So really what you're kind of solving for is how do we manage this absolutely massive inventory of art or content, and then just in time when we finally figure it out, maybe we do a campaign with a news magazine or maybe we do a movie tie-in or something. How do we super flexibly just throw that stuff in the moment we get the deals done and we finally lock it in without going into that half a year development cycle that maybe at some point finally comes out, and if you miss the movie window, your business is shafted for that campaign, for example. So it's absolutely part of the problem. It's a very boring problem to solve. It takes a lot of programming, but it's actually kind of exciting when you, as a developer, when you're working with tools that makes it possible, because now you're able to chase these deals or be able to work with these other creatives to do interesting crossovers when previously it was just too much work, for example.
It's also fascinating that the back-end business that you were in has evolved so much. And of course, when we're talking about being creative, we cannot ignore AI. That is the core of creativity. And now I was reading something recently which is we all know that you win with creative, but there's battle cries out there. The battle is fought and won with creative. What does that look like on the back end and what you're supporting as well? Because there are a lot of tools out there and you sort of get the feeling that, hey, I can do this. This can be a one man, one woman, one person show.
Yeah.
But it can't if you are going for scale.
Correct. Yeah. Now, it's something that's an open research, so I'm not going to claim any silver bullets, but this is something that literally days before we flew in here, we just spent multiple days talking about reading the latest white papers coming out of AI generation and trying to understand where that is and where that's going to go. Specifically for us in backend development, it seems like there's a lot of these special knowledge, for example, like hidden knowledge about how you do server authoritative games, or how do you implement a scalable live ops system or something that as a developer you have to really quickly pick up and then go with. And for example, AI, I think, will be the most efficient way of transferring knowledge between developers or a bit from us to developers. It'll be your personal tutor, if you will, your personal coach in learning the best practices of the industry, whether it's in sort of design detail or more like technical implementation detail. I'd love Metaplay to have that sort of a coach. Let's see if we can make it happen at some point. But then beyond that, I'm very confident that this year we're going to see more sort of generated programming assistants become absolutely integral to the development workflow. Hopefully we can teach those AIs to be really good at what Metaplay does. We're still kind of looking at that. And we are absolutely already seeing generative art become something that's part of live ops. So we have customers that, for example, in their admin dashboards, they're able to prompt together seasonal event assets or like prototype real quickly, looks and feels with just smaller teams. But I think what it's still at the end of the day, what it needs is somebody who's got the vision of what they want and that they're able to express the vision. So you still have that talented developer kind of orchestrating and being the king of the hill. So it doesn't really like take away or completely magic away the thing. It empowers those best individuals to do the work with smaller teams. And I think we're going to see that this year.
I like that you're going for like the small team, but also the big, because it's basically very similar. It's just a matter of how to implement it so it makes sense. It has to be manageable for a small team. It has to grow to meet the needs of a big team. And I've watched you since we had our interview, and I come here and I say to myself, it takes something to go back a little bit as well and pull out the learnings of the past. I mean, Renaissance, having a magazine, talking to people, doing a survey. You went out and talked to people. So you're bringing together those worlds as well. So I have to ask myself, Teemu, about your backstory, because there's got to be something there that's driving this that isn't what you would expect. This is not what I would have expected. So I'm surprised. There's got to be something surprising in your story as well.
Very kind words. Thank you. Honestly, I think all of this, first of all, it's a team effort. So massive thanks to everybody who's been part of this. I think, honestly, these are learnings from having had game studios in the past. You need to do something that stands out, that is interesting. It's not enough to just exist. You want to do something that kind of sparks, a little bit of joy. And in this case, we're saying the concept of Renaissance is that after a dark time, an art form starts to thrive. And that's the emotion. That's what we want. So then let's lean into the emotion. So that's maybe the games developer side of us bubbling through a little bit.
I mean, it's about time, right? We had Doom and Gloom, we had IDFA, we had Scan, we had a lot going on that it just seemed very heavy, very difficult, and there was so much to learn. And now we're going back to what it was about: creativity, good games, and a solid system. You have to have system, process in order to be successful. So I'm looking forward to talking with you again, Teemu, and looking forward to some of those things that are coming, maybe not coming, but we shall see. So leave us with a thought to take us into the new year, something that maybe, since you're such a positive person, something that marketers have at their fingertips, but maybe don't see it, and you want to shine a light on that, because guess what? There's a lot possible.
Oh boy, can I pick like 10 things?
No. 10 things they're not seeing, right? 10 things they're not seeing, that's saying a lot. I mean, I do think that we do tend to dwell as an industry. We really dwell. So zoom out, give me a bigger picture. Something that we don't know, we have the power to do, so we actually do it.
Yeah. I'll take the question seriously and ponder for about 2 seconds. But so what I've been thinking lately about a lot, actually even here talking with fellow conference attendees, is the attention economy as a concept, where and I'll try to keep it short, but the idea that as long as you have attention, we nowadays have pretty good tools of turning that attention into capital, as in if you have eyeballs, maybe you can have a game, or maybe you can have merchandise or something. So as long as you have attention, you have an audience. So what we're not really doing all that much, which surprises me, is talking more with the sort of e-commerce giants, like whether they're the Alibabas or Amazons or other companies of the world that have a lot of attention going on. TikTok has a lot of attention. So where are the game platform tie-ins that, from the platform's point of view, is good retention, it's good engagement, has amazing crossovers with other things that they're doing? This would be a dream come true from game developers' point of view, because the audience is already there. And now we have all the technology and tools in the world to actually chase it quickly, but it just hasn't been really done before. So I'm just excited to see what kind of deals people are making here in the shadows, and that's something that's going to emerge. So talking to existing platform holders that are not just publishers, but sort of attention owners, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. I heard something like that at RovioCon that I attended as well, that thinking that, what do you want? Do you want a good game made from a game studio, or do you want a brand to make a game that could be hit or miss because, how many games do we know made by unnamed financial institutions or e-commerce platforms? It's like, yeah, that was a match game. I'll give you that, but it wasn't a hit, and it's not what we want to be playing.
Exactly. So there's so much more that can happen in something that feels authentic and is like me as a fan that I can get excited by. But then you combine the lack of discovery and them having an audience with the quality that you can bring to play. So new channels, essentially, looking for new ways to go to market. Also, specifically, I'm kind of interested in Telegram blowing up lately. We do have a customer that is shipping in Telegram, so we have a little bit of visibility into all of that. So again, it's such a unexpected gaming platform that suddenly has hundreds of millions of people ready to go if only you have the technical means and the mind space to go there.
And we know that model works. Look at WeChat, right? So why wouldn't it work in Telegram?
100%, absolutely. And they even now have their off-app purchases store, which we've been talking about off-app purchase for a while as an industry, so we should know how to do that. Something use Metaplay, but like this, when there's a will, there's a way. We can do this.
I like that. It's such a joy, Teemu, and it's contagious. Now you've got me thinking, yes, this is going to be an awesome year for the gaming industry. You're on.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. This show is all about how to do your job better, how to make an amazing game, how to market it, and you have a say. So if you have a story or know someone we need to shine a light on, then we would love to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. We want to reflect the reality of the mobile games market in all its wonderful complexity and strangeness. So if you have any suggestions for us, if you have any feedback for us, you can always get in touch. You can email us at podcast@pocketgamer.biz. You can find us on Twitter @PGBiz, and you can reach out to us through the pocketgamer.biz website. If you're interested in listening to all of our podcasts, you can find them at pocketgamer.biz/podcast, and we would love to hear your thoughts on future shows.
And we've got you covered on all the major platforms, so subscribe to the audio podcast, as Brian said. Look for us on YouTube. If you want to read it, hey, you can do that too, because we have a companion post for you as well on the pocketgamer.biz website.
Tune in again for the next edition of the pocketgamer.biz podcast, and we look forward to speaking to you in the near future. Until then, I'm Brian Baglow.
I'm Peggy Anne Salz, and that's a wrap until next week.